Results-based financing, or RBF, is a funding approach where at least part of the funding is conditioned on pre-agreed and measured, verified results. One example of this is if you're funding an employment program as opposed to financing the number of students going for training, you might decide to tie your funding to the number of youth actually getting a job at the end of the program or retaining that job. That ensures that you're putting the focus and incentives on the ultimate results that matter, and you're introducing a performance culture in the delivery of the program. And the hypothesis is that all of this can really improve the quality and cost effectiveness of development programming. One of the trends we're seeing in results-based financing is greater adoption of RBF in sectors that are facing increasing pressure to deliver results fast and better and high quality. Some of these sectors are climate change, humanitarian response, or pandemic preparedness, which are considered as the new global public goods that everybody from the donors to the low middle income countries, recipient countries care about. The other trend we're seeing is people moving from applying RBF on a project basis to going to the portfolio basis, a portfolio department applying RBF to the entire practice, to increasingly entire institutions thinking about how they can be more results driven and how they can institutionally adopt and expand their use of results-based financing.
Results-based financing is not only used with the private sector. We have been using it also in governance settings for several projects, especially those related to public service delivery in Eastern Europe, for example, but also in Benin, West Africa, or in Mongolia, in Asia. And why? Because we see that in the public service provisions, healthy competition brings a lot of positive aspects.
Well, our experience has been very diverse. So in infrastructure, for example, we had experience with hardware objectives, but also on technical assistance objectives. We had interesting results where we have been more effective and efficient. But in fact, what was also very interesting was that we really were forced to agree with all the partners on very clear objectives. Usually this should be done in every project, but here it's obviously, because it's like a contract, you have to be much more precise and you have to agree and negotiate. And then afterwards, you have the same objectives and you go in the same direction. And I think this is a clear benefit of RBF.
On the private sector side, we have pioneered an innovative way of results-based finance, which is impact-linked finance. What impact-linked finance does is it incentivizes private sector actors, so mostly social enterprises, to achieve certain social or environmental goals. This in turn is an additional revenue stream for the enterprise, which makes them more attractive to private investors. And as such is a more easier, more open form of results-based finance, because we only really need one transaction between an outcome funder and a social enterprise.
Well, we have tested RBF in Colombia first with the social impact bond on integrating vulnerable population into the labor market. And this was a co-payment where the Swiss government paid half of the results together with the Colombian government. And this has been the first social impact bond in a developing country. And the experience has been really positive, because beyond the first social impact bond pilot, it has really shifted the mindset of the government to focus on achieving results.
I've been working on budget support, which is the main RBF instrument that we use. So we provide grants to governments conditional to the achievement of given targets. But RBF is really fundamental, because it's really aligned on the country priorities, the country system. So if you don't do this, you have always the risk to be fragmented, to have aid fragmented, to not be sustainable over time. So it remains a very important tool for us, but a tool that requires close monitoring.
In this system, the municipalities get more money the more they can prove that they have delivered public services with quality and in a successful way. The lessons which have been learned by those systems is that the system needs to have clear objectives, that the data gathering needs to be quite robust, and that the indicators to sustain and prove these achievements have to be done not by donors but really by all actors all together. Ultimately, this has shown that on the first stage, the people involved and the government and municipalities have a better change in the management of the whole system, and ultimately a change in the behavior, because at the end they are themselves demanding for such aspects.
Well, I think the great advantage of results-based work is that it allows for more flexibility within a project. So you set the goals, but then you leave the flexibility and also for finding new solutions and being creative. And that was really the case in Colombia. And what was really positive to see is that the Colombian government has been on board, and they have taken on board the learnings and also helped to institutionalize this setup. So it's now becoming more mainstream the way they provide social services.
Through this experience review, we really try to bring together the key learnings of different applications of RBF, and to really show that even though the experience might be very different, for example, between a private sector application of RBF and a governance application of RBF, there are some common instruments and tools such as contracts, financial admin questions that are really the same when you tie results to payments. And I think that's really one of the goals of this whole experience review, to show that the RBF toolset is here. It's here for the taking, for everybody at SDC and SECO to use, to make sure we can make it easier and even incentivize people to use RBF in their projects, no matter which field they're in.
Well, we have been successful with partners which really had a strong ownership, where we had strong drivers of change in the department, in the institution. And I know this is not specific to RBF. Of course, you need strong partners in any project, but with RBF, you empower them more, and we saw them developing much more driving power and reaching results more quickly and more effectively, and continue also.
We had many key learnings over the last 20 years, as I said, but I would say the last ones is that we have to focus a lot on the financial supervision. You have to have the systems that allow this financial supervision also. So the lesson is that you have often to start working with technical assistance to help the country or the beneficiary to build these systems, to have solid internal control systems.